Reading posts on watch forums is a great way to keep up with the news and the happenings in the watch community. I never cease to be amazed by the knowledge shown by some of the contributors to these posts, and overall they seem to be a helpful bunch. Sometimes though you get people asking for a legit check of their Casio or G-Shock and often showing nothing more than a single picture. In one instance, somebody posted a single picture of their GA2100 SKE asking if it was genuine. And just from this single photo, the consensus among the responders was that it was a fake. In this instance, asking the watch community for a legit check paid off because I could tell that it was not genuine and I agreed with the consensus. Sometimes though they do get it wrong, and I found an instance where a genuine G-Shock was misidentified as being a fake. Before I go on to tell you what legit checkers sometimes get wrong, take a look at this GA2100 SKE and leave your comments as to the telltale signs pointing towards this watch not being genuine. I'll reveal the answers later on in this video. One of the easiest checks to test if your watch is genuine is to carry out the 3-button LCD test. You can execute this test on all G-Shocks and some Casios that have more than just the basic features. The good thing about this test is that counterfeit watches doesn't have this feature built into their watches, so you can be relatively certain that your watch is genuine. One caveat that I'd like to add is that counterfeiters are always improving on their designs, so you'll never know when they will catch up. To carry out the test, hold down the adjust, mode and start buttons simultaneously, and this should activate all the segments on the LCD display. Cycle through the test with the start button and this should display a 4-digit code. I'll tell you what this code means in a minute, but the mistake that the legit checkers made was that they expected this number to match the module number written on the back of the watch. This code can match the module number, but if it doesn't necessarily mean that the watch is fake. In one post that I saw, someone was asking for a legit check of his DW9052 because he was worried that the 3229 code on the watch didn't match the 3232 module number on the back. And because these numbers didn't match, everyone in the forum told him that his watch was counterfeit, and he ended up returning it, even though it was genuine. What this 4-digit code actually signifies is the firmware or the software programmed into the module. As you can see from this comparison, my DW6900 uses the same 3229 firmware as the DW9052, even though these watches have different modules. They both have the same features of a countdown timer, stopwatch, alarm and a flash alert, so it makes sense to program the different modules with the same firmware. To give you one more example of why I think this 4-digit code is for the firmware, let's take a look at these two seemingly different Casios. On the left is the AE1200 and on the right is the LF20W. They both feature an analog and digital representation of the time, but the AE1200 boasts about its well-time function. At first glance you might not notice, but the LF20W shares exactly the same features, including the well-time function. We can uncover this by looking at the 4-digit code, and as you can see, they're both programmed with the same 3198 firmware. As good as a 3-button test is as a method of legit checking, it relies on you having the watch in hand. So what else can you do to prevent yourself from receiving a counterfeit Casio or G-Shock in the first place? The best method is to buy from an authorized Casio dealer. Authorized dealers get their stock directly from Casio instead of the grey market, and so you can be sure of the authenticity. If you're buying from a website, check the seller's reviews and also their returns policy. Big e-commerce websites at least offer you some kind of protection between you and the seller, so you won't be on your own if there's a problem with the watch that you receive. Sometimes though you may need to turn to more riskier channels of purchase, such as local adverts listings or auction websites. You may need to do this if you're wanting to purchase a watch that's no longer in production and the watch is no longer sold through the usual dealer networks. In instances like these, then make sure that the listing is showing you photos of the actual watch. Make sure that they're showing the front, side and also the back of the watch. Then compare it to photos of the genuine article. It's necessary to compare the back of the watch as well, because fake Casios often have a fatter case back and even use the wrong types of screw. If the seller is using stock photos for the watch that they're selling, then this could be a potential red flag. If you're unable to compare photos for the watch as part of your legit check, then there is one more trick up your sleeve that you can use, and that is to message the seller and simply to ask them if the watch is genuine. I've been reading up on this science called statement analysis, which seeks to uncover if somebody is lying simply by analysing their words. The science states that it's very difficult for somebody to tell a direct lie because it causes some kind of inner conflict. They're more likely to tell you a lie by omission because that way they can justify to themselves that they haven't told you a direct lie. So if a seller tells you that they don't know if the watch that they're selling you is genuine because they're selling it on behalf of their uncle or something similar, then this could be a potential lie. As an example, I recently wanted to get an AL180, a watch that has been out of production for a number of years. I saw a listing for new old stock versions of this watch on an auction website. The first red flag was that the seller was using stock photos for this watch, and so I messaged them to ask if it was genuine. I gave them a couple of weeks but they didn't reply, and this was enough for me to walk away from buying from the seller. One last thing, and that is if the seller is listing the watch as being in quotes untested, then my statement analysis skills will be telling me that the watch is not working. Hopefully following these guidelines will help to prevent you from picking up a counterfeit Casio or G-Shock unknowingly. Doing just a few minutes of due diligence beforehand can save future headaches. Now let's get back to spotting the differences between a genuine GA2100 SKE and a fake one. Did you manage to spot any? The first telltale sign is the colour of the case. On the fake one, it's very clear, whereas on the genuine, the case is translucent. The second telltale sign is the positioning of the G-Shock logo on the dial. On the fake, the G appears right over the letter M on the date subdial, whereas it doesn't reach so far on the genuine. The third indicator relates to the date subdial. On the fake, the left side appears to be squared off, whereas on the genuine, the left side appears to be pointy. Thanks for watching folks, I hope that this video has helped you out, and I will catch you next time.